It is a program of choice, Health Affair on AIT, a platform where we beam a searchlight on public health issues, challenges of women and children, with a view to preferring lasting solutions. I am your regular anchor, Oshuomo Daniels. Our focus on the program this week is on the impact of climate change on human health, the food we eat, and the implications of genetically modified organisms, GMO. We'll be right back after the news segment.
I have got my car for full body work.
Madam, look, we will shine this car.
Wait. This cough doesn't sound good at all. What are you doing about it?
Oga doesn't want to go to the hospital so that they won't say he has COVID-19.
No, now. Cough is a sign of different infections, including tuberculosis. You would only know which cough it is if you go for testing.
Kai, I've been coughing for more than 2 weeks now.
There's no need to fear. I have done this test myself. To know the right treatment for the particular cough you have, you must first get tested.
Oga Chekamo, make you dey sure because
who no go?
No go, no.
Check that cough for tuberculosis.
If your cough is more than 2 weeks, it could be tuberculosis. TB tests and TB treatment are free. Just call the National TB Hotline on 3340 for information on where to get the test. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Health with support from the American people.
Out of efforts to reduce hearing impairment among school children, the Lagos State Government, in collaboration with the non-governmental organization HearMax, has provided hearing aids, an electronic device designed to improve hearing, to 9 primary school pupils. The pupils, who are part of over 1,000 school children screened by the Lagos Ministry of Health during a pilot study on hearing impairment, commissioned on the request of the Lagos State Governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, in selected primary schools in Lagos, were presented with hearing aids after a confirmatory test for various degrees of hearing loss. Out of the 1,131 pupils that were screened, 676 pupils, according to the Commissioner for Health, Professor Akin Abayomi, had wax with foreign impaction, while 14 pupils passed the confirmatory test for varying degrees of hearing loss. The National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, has warned Nigerians to desist from using unauthorized cosmetics and dangerous chemicals for bleaching of the skin to enhance their beauty. The Director General Mojisola Adeyeye gave the admonition over the weekend in Lagos. In a statement signed by the resident media consultant to NAFDAC, Shayo Akintola, Adeyeye expressed shock in the proliferation of beauticians engaged in formulation of authorized chemicals with the intention of applying them on unsuspecting clients, exposing them to skin cancer. The NAFDAC boss disclosed that most of the products used in this mix are smuggled into the country and are unregistered, citing formulations containing kojic acid and hydroquinone that are above their permissible limits in the formulations and therefore causing harm. Adeyeye further disclosed that the agency is on the heels of some people who engage in the sales of these dangerous products and must bring them to book. Adeyeye further revealed that the agency is on the heels of some people who engage in the sales of these dangerous products and must bring them to book.
The theme of this summit is transforming nursing practice through strategic plan for nursing and midwifery 2023-2025. The whole aim and the objective of the summit is have the following objective, which includes: 1, to brainstorm on strategic plan for nursing and midwifery, which will act as a panacea to development of national mitigation plans for attrition of nurses and midwives. 2, to build capacity of nurse leaders on utilizing nursing practice, mentorship, networking, and community building. 3, to discuss the role of the state nurse directors in advancing the frontiers of nursing education through the articulated reform of nursing education, which was initiated and approved by Nursing and Midwifery Council of NDHND programs of all our basic and post-basic programs. And lastly, the summit, it is also to achieve that, to articulate the role of Association of General Private Nursing Practitioners in the eradication of quackery in nursing profession within its all entity. It is timely for this summit, looking at the higher trend of brain drain that is leaving this country, most especially affecting our dear professional nurses. And Lagos is one of the states that is mostly affected. It is in line with this, the Honorable Commissioner of Health, Minister of Health, Lagos State, with the proposal and the initiative of the Directorate of Nursing, come out with the idea to come out with this idea of the summit in order to discuss what are the strategies and the way forward to mitigate these menaces. Equally, it is also intended to provide strategy. How do we put measures? These measures include increase the productions and training and retraining, putting a number of measures how to curtail the movement of nurses draining from our hospitals across the state.
They were all aware about universal health coverage and sustainable development goal. This global target cannot be achieved without the nurses and midwives. And that is why the nurses and midwives constitute over 50% of the workforce in the health sector. Unfortunately, the recently experienced brain drain has been a matter of concern to the association because without the nurses, universal health coverage cannot be achieved, sustainable development goal cannot be achieved. The issue of brain drain has to do with picking the best of the critical health workforce, who are the nurses and midwives. And the fear is that if nothing is done concerning the welfare of workers, the health sector might collapse because nurses live on daily basis, on weekly basis. Why? Because of dissatisfaction, conditions of service.
Has to step in. Our wages has to be looked into. We need more welfare, especially in Lagos State. Accommodation can be provided. Staff buses can be given. Even let our salary be increased. Then the work environments, I think we need to. We are backward when it comes to the patient care, the use of our equipment and instruments. Abroad, they've gone automated, but you still go, when you get to our wards, you still find the Nightingale settings all over. But we can do better.
The challenge of brain drain in Nigeria health sector has continued to generate reactions from different quarters. The latest is coming from His Eminence, the former prelate of Methodist Church, Uche Kalu. Kalu urged Nigerian leaders to improve budgetary allocation to the sector and ensure that such allocations are channeled towards proper direction so that healthcare personnel will be motivated to serve their father's land.
Brain drain among medical personnel is caused by Nigeria. The place is not conducive for them. Do you understand? I know a doctor or a nurse in US earns 10 times what a doctor earns in Nigeria. So if you have that option, why do you stay here to suffer? The same thing in Canada, the same thing in Britain. So that's the problem, is leadership. And because of it, they don't build good hospitals. Why should somebody go to a foreign country for treatment, wasting our money? Because they don't have good hospitals. I remember that the first lady of this nation cried sometime that the Asorok facility is substandard. She didn't hide it. Maybe if you are newspaper, you must be conversant with what I'm saying. that the Asorok medical facility is not conducive. So what do you think medical personnel will do?
The cleric used the occasion to reflect on happenings in the country as they affect the citizens, especially the harsh economic realities, insecurity, and ASU crisis.
Teach children what they want. Keep them busy. Give them carrots. They will be busy with carrots, and they will not have time for carrying gun. But when you don't give them carrots, they will look for ways of getting it by force. Action are always equal and opposite. So we are not investing in agriculture. In fact, if you fix security, you have fixed agriculture. 2, if you commercialize agriculture and use modern facilities, not tilling, you make food. Nigeria can export food and get more money than they get in oil.
The briefing with newsmen was part of activities to mark the anniversary of the church. This gathering here in Lagos, Nigeria became necessary to build the technical and scientific capacity of members on risk analysis and the revised 4th edition procedural manual. Outcome of the event organized by the National Codex Committee in collaboration with the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, of the United Nations will improve food safety practices in the interest of the consumers.
I'm pleased to bring you greetings from the entire country team of the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. We are happy to be part of this training program for NCC members on risk analysis and revised NCC procedural manual, which is activity 4.2 on Nigeria CTP project. The FAO representative in Nigeria and to ECOWAS, Mr. Fred Cafero, is pleased with the level of implementation of Codex Trust Fund activities in Nigeria. As you are aware, the launch and the public presentation of the revised NCC procedural manual was successfully held in Abuja on 8 September 2022. As a follow-up to the launch, FAO recognized the need to train NCC members, both old and new, on the new rules, provision, and responsibility of each member for effective implementation of the 4th edition of the procedural manual for better performance. This 6-day training program was approved by FAO with support from FAO Regional Office in Accra. Unless we are able to gather the Codex activity, we will not move forward as a nation. So this training is very important to make us understand everything about food safety risk analysis.
It is in line with what is happening in the National Codex Alimentation Commission. So we are guided by that document, and it will make you to be effective in performing your role. You know, the NCC is made up of different stakeholders, the NAFDAC, the agencies of government, the ministries of government, and then even private sector, organized private sector. We need to come together, and then we have a standard way of operation, so that there won't be division, there won't be conflict. It is the platform through which Nigeria participates in the Codex activity. And then what do they do? They will meet to take decision on all the issues that have to do with food safety, in line with the international standard. You know, the essence of Codex Alimentation Commission is to ensure protection of the consumer. They take good food, safe food, and they also ensure fair practice in international food trade.
Under the membership, we have ministries, we have departments, we have agencies, we have AFBTE, we have MAN, we have All Farmers Association of Nigeria, we have private sectors.
Discussions around the rejection of food items from Nigeria by foreign countries also came to the fore, with suggestions on how to improve the process.
We'll be hearing of rejection of our food products in the DC. It's because there is no adherence to that standard, Codex standard that made all those things needed to happen. So, and then we need to work assiduously to ensure that thing does not occur. It is not giving the country a good image.
When you see something, you say something.
When there is a form of emergency or early warning in your area, you must communicate it to the expert. Emergency management commences from home. You have to teach your children. You have to teach yourself. You have to teach your wards and the people around you what they need to do. That look, be careful the way you handle electricity. Be careful the way you handle gas. Be careful the way you handle your environment.
He talked about the role of you and I as members of the community. He talked about the role of the police, the role of the traffic control, the role of the press, the role of communication. And we need to carry that information out to people. That disaster management is everybody's business.
We must be able to work as a team. We must realize that we must plan for disaster, and we must ensure that we put resources in disaster management.
Some human rights advocates have called for more reporting of sexual and gender-based violence cases and a strong political will to ensure that culprits are brought to book. Speaking at a one-day dissemination event and panel discussion on access to justice for SGBV victims, they noted that greater collaboration has become necessary as no one is exempted from the risk.
A lot of them don't know that they have rights. So the essence of this meeting or this panel discussion is to help them know their rights, see that, okay, I have a right, I have a voice. I can actually walk up to the police and say, this is what happened to me. A lot of these ones get abused and then they don't know how to come up and then defend themselves because of what people would say. Some of them shrink back in fear, shrink back in shame.
So it cuts across age, gender, religious, traditional, cultural, social, economic, educational sentiments. It can happen to anybody at any time. And that is why we call on everyone, members of the communities, religious leaders and members, traditional leaders and members, the government, that all of us should rally around the survivors. Do not blame the survivor, do not victimize the survivor, rather support the survivor. Give them hope. Let them know that, oh, they cannot be blamed, they cannot be judged. And let us hold the perpetrators, the offenders, accountable. By the time we start doing things like that, we start taking them out from our communities and then putting them to where they belong according to law. They should go, if they are free to sexually abuse someone, they should also go and do the time, in the custody of the police and then the court. They should face their judgment, receive their due punishment. Because if you allow them, some of them are even serial offenders. They go out to abuse that same person, abuse other people. And there are different consequences when it comes to this sexual abuse, ranging from the physical consequences, the emotional consequences, and even the socioeconomic consequences. That in Lagos State they are trying, but what about other states? And even it can still get better in Lagos State. So let us copy from Lagos State and also encourage the Lagos State government that all those other services that are not available for survivors of sexual and gender-based violence, or even they are available but they are not adequate, that the government should go ahead and do that. Like I told you, shelter is one area that we are looking at, and making sure that justice dispensation is expedited so that people don't feel that they are delayed in receiving, justice.
A lot of perpetrators go unpunished. They see that blame game. When sexual and gender-based violence is being reported, it's like, oh, why did he do that? Why did he dress like that? Why did he talk like that? That blame game is still there. And because perpetrators go unpunished, that's why. So we are saying that no perpetrator should go. It's a crime. And that's why we have laws. We have the Lagos State Domestic and Sexual Violence Law. We have VAP law, Violence Against Prostitution Persons laws in Nigeria. So those laws should be enforced as a distributor because the enforcement of the law is weak. So that's why it seems to be on the increase.
They also called for economic empowerment for victims and cautioned against stigmatization of people's sexual rights.
If a woman is in an abusive relationship and she wants to leave, the next question is, what are the support structures available to that woman? Maybe the husband who is beating her up is the one paying school fees, but you don't encourage her to remain in that abusive relationship. So there should be some support structures that she's encouraged to leave, maybe some form of livelihood empowerment, so she can still stand on her own and work, and her children are still in school. Not that when she leaves an abusive relationship, then that's the end of our life. No, we don't want anyone to remain in an abusive relationship, whether man or woman, especially women, because women suffer more. But at the same time, we need to provide economic support for such women. We need to support their children to be in school. That will now empower them to continue to do reporting, because without that, they will not want to report.
A Nigerian-Canadian pastor, Tinuola Babafemi, has called on Nigerians well-placed to stop complaining and do what they can to help the country. Pastor Tinuola, who was speaking with newsmen at the international airport on arrival to Nigeria on Wednesday, 21st of September 2022, said all arrangements have been concluded to establish a food bank initiative to provide food for the hungry.
We have come to set up a new initiative known as House of Praise and Prayer Food Bank Initiative. This initiative will be helping to support families on low income or families that are struggling to eat regularly on a daily basis. So we'll be providing meals for them on a regular basis. We are starting from Ibadan because I'm a product of Ibadan. I grew up in Ibadan and I have people that I can work with to start the project, and that's why I started from Ibadan. From Ibadan, we will be going to Ilesha. That's where I'm originally from Osun State. And then from there, we're going to Delta State. That's where my husband is from. And then we come to Lagos State. We take it all over Nigeria.
Cleric and founder of House of Praise and Prayer Food Bank Initiative operates a restaurant in Canada through which she has been feeding the poor in South Africa and Pakistan.
I have been somebody who has been very, very comfortable in life in the past, and also I have experienced hunger. So when I came out of hunger, of the situation, I believe that nobody deserves to be hungry. So I think it's a passion inside me from what I have experienced. And I started this in Canada, running a successful food bank, and we are still running it. We are doing it in South Africa, we are doing it in Pakistan currently. And I think it's a good time to come to my father's land, because I know we need this help more than any country right now.
Indeed, women care, and as mothers, they are doing great things to better Nigeria.
Lagos, Jigawa, Delta. Listen, those states are the capital. Universities, names of universities. Unilag. Good morning, madam. How are you? Good to see you. Are you excited? Do you wear bangles? Do you wear earrings?
All work and no play, people often say, makes Jack a dull boy. So, to let students feel the vibes of the 60th anniversary celebration by the Lagos University Teaching Hospital, the student fun fair that took place on Wednesday, 21st of September 2022, became necessary. The event featured a lot of activities that enabled students express themselves.
This event today, which we tag Students Fun Fair, is one of the several events that management decided to carry out in celebration of Luther 60. Specifically, it's an event that had the students of the hospital in mind. Luther has 9 schools, and management thought it very wise or very interesting to bring the students into the celebration. And being the very first time they are all coming together to celebrate, it's been quite exciting for them. And management also is very happy that this has come to be. Of course, we know what it is to be 60. Anybody who is 60 knows what it is. And in the same way, it's exciting that Luther has turned 60. And yeah, so that's the reason management has said to celebrate this Luta 60 with several things, having several things and several people in mind, with the desire to also honor those who walked through the journey from the year it started, 1962, to this time. So there are several events that management has put aside and is going to carry out to celebrate the hospital. Once in a while, it's good to just take out time from our busy schedule. And some of the time, we are so busy looking after some people or doing our jobs, we tend to forget that we should have a relaxation period for ourselves. So that's actually what it is today. The students have taken out time and courtesy of the hospital management to have fun. And I can tell you from 9 o'clock that this program started, and hopefully up to 5 o'clock, they have been having fun.
For me as a student, the celebration so far has been, I say it has been successful because all the events that have been planned have been carried out successfully. Like this is one of them. And I'm happy and I'm glad that the event planners have been able to pull up something like this. It has been a really enjoyable moment so far for me. Well, I saw it as an opportunity because usually in our school generally we have competitions like this. So I saw it as an opportunity. So when I saw the opportunity, I took it and I said that this could be a chance for me to at least show what I'm capable of. So that's it generally.
The Lagos University Teaching Hospital, LUTH, started in 1962, and at 60, the hospital has achieved a lot. Government at all levels have been challenged to put in place innovative and sustainable alternative power supply in primary health care facilities, especially those in rural communities, to reduce the number of deaths associated with poor emergency handling and improve birth attendance. Speaking at a forum on sustainable energy for improved healthcare delivery in Nigeria, some of the medical experts reviewed instances where emergency cases were rejected and babies delivered with complications due to lack of adequate power supply to carry out proper health interventions.
For you to be able to offer emergency 24 hours quality services in our public and even private facilities, you need reliable power, and we don't have that. It is also very pathetic to see that healthcare workers that are well equipped with the skill sets cannot perform such services because of lack of reliable power. We've also seen cases where surgeries are cancelled because there is no power. We've seen cases where patients are turned back because there is no power. We've also seen diagnoses are not done real time because of power, because laboratories are not functioning 24-hour services, and even doctors and nurses across the cadre of healthcare workers are not able to provide that real-time diagnosis because of lack of power. So governments and everyone has a role to play. And that's why I'm truly very excited about the Nigerian Energy Conference, because it has brought everyone together, from the funders to the private sector and even to our governments, which are major stakeholders. So basically what government needs to do, government needs to be more accommodating, government needs to be more receptive with respect to supports that come from funders, from NGOs like ourselves, We Care Solar.
Income countries. About 20 countries are facing serious challenges when it comes to power. And these 20 countries account for 80% worldwide of the lack of power in health facilities in the world. To get it. So it's obvious there is a problem. There is that lack of power to be able to deliver health services effectively and efficiently.
We are a provider of solar energy solutions. We are a provider of the data that is required to make decisions about energy. So before you even decide you want to place a solar panel in a healthcare facility or in a community, we have to do necessary assessment and get the necessary data that allows us to make the right decisions, right? So we are a provider of that data. We support the government in doing energy audits and energy assessments to really know where's the right place to place these solar solutions. And then when it comes to deployment, we're also able to advise on the best kind of solutions to deploy for which context, whether it's a large system or a small system, to make sure that this is a really efficient process. So we work with different partners, we work with different vendors, such as We Care Solar, which we partnered with on this panel, because they're bringing in something that's really innovative into the country.
According to the experts, Nigeria remains one of the worst countries contributing to the high maternal mortality numbers in the world due to multiple factors, including epileptic power supply.
There is this technology that you're going to be seeing in your health centers at the last mile, and this technology is is a solar suitcase. It has about 100 to 200 watts. It's also not to power the whole facility, but to power the labor wards, power your theater, power your second stage rooms. And basically what it does is that it allows the healthcare workers to perform emergency services. They're able to see clearly how to cut the cord, how to do resuscitation, as Dr. Ahmad had talked about, when a baby is born with beta asphyxia.
It's a small solution, but it has a big impact. So we're able to see what are the different solutions that exist out there, bring them to the table.
One passenger, big aunty. Come and enter my bus now.
Hey, conductor, this cough is serious. I beg, you need to go to the hospital.
Hospital? Aunty, if I go hospital now with this cough, those people will just say I have COVID-19.
No, they won't. Doctors say cough symptoms are different in every condition. Some are dry, others are wet, like your own.
God bless you, aunty. I have told this my conductor. The cough has refused to go, and it could be tuberculosis.
Conductor, check am o, make you dey sure, because who no go, no go, no.
Check that cough for tuberculosis.
If your cough is more than 2 weeks, it could be tuberculosis. TB tests and TB treatment are free. Just call the National TB Hotline on 3340 for information on where to get the test. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Health with support from the American people.
A healthy population, people often say, builds a prosperous nation. But many Nigerians are threatened on a daily basis and die needlessly due to diseases, poor health care, malnutrition, and lack of access to relevant health information. The sorry state of our health infrastructure is also a major challenge. On Health Affair, Oshomo Daniels brings these challenges to the attention of relevant authorities for a lasting solution. For sponsorship and advert placements, please call the numbers showing on your screen. Health Affair, your access to good health through relevant information.
The impact of climate change is being felt in all human endeavors, and health is inclusive. Climate change is impacting also on agriculture and food production through flooding, desertification with attendant consequences of malnutrition. The quest for a lasting solution to food crisis occasioned by climate change also necessitated the introduction of genetically modified organisms, GMOs. Now we have genetically modified beans, maize, fruits, and several others. But how safe are they for human consumption? These topical issues form the thrust of our discussion today on the program.
The implications of climate change on human health and the health of other species, because we don't occupy this planet alone. There are other beings whose well-being is equally important to us. For example, if butterflies die off, if bees die off, if the pollinators die off, agriculture will collapse and humans can't survive without food. So with looking at climate change, we look at it as something that is having dramatic impact on human and environmental health and serious action need to be taken. There are many things for us to consider. One is that climate change is not abstract. It's not an abstract notion. It's something that is real. And the world generally, global leaders are not ready to take the real action. So citizens need to remind them that they are also citizens of this planet. They are not going to escape to space or to other planets. They have to be sure they have to take the real action that is needed to be taken. It is the place of the media to let the world know clearly that many of the so-called solutions being proposed by political leaders and by technocrats who negotiate on climate change, that many of those things they present as solutions are no solutions at all. For example, rather than stopping the release of greenhouse gas to the atmosphere, people are making efforts on how to capture the pollution rather than stopping the pollution. Instead of looking at forests as living ecosystems that provide us with health resources, medicine for our people, places for recreation, for habitation and materials for our buildings, as well as generally providing what we need for what other species need to live. But now there's a tendency to look at forests as just carbon sinks. That is why instead of agriculture creating problems as being trumpeted in many circles, the right kind of agriculture would help to cool the planet, provide safe food, encourage human health, and at the same time provide resources, economic resources for farmers. Many of our farmers don't depend on artificial inputs for farming. They work with nature. They don't depend on artificial fertilizer. Now, fertilizers are so important in Nigeria that they become political campaign items. So I'm going to supply fertilizer. Whereas people can make their own compost, their own manure. They can even make their own pesticides using organic means. Farmers are learning this and they're sharing the information more and more. This is where government should invest resources, helping farmers to promote natural means of producing crops in a way that is healthy, just not only for the people, but also for soils and for all other organisms, both soil organisms, fisheries, and other things depending on the natural environment. Agroecology, which is agriculture with nature, doesn't mean small-scale farming. It includes small-scale farming, and by the way, small-scale farmers are the ones feeding the world with clean, healthy food. Agroecology can also be done on a bigger scale, but not as monocultures. When you cultivate corn, you should also cultivate beans, cultivate cassava. So a farmer that has a small parcel of land comes home at the end of the day with high harvest that give them balanced diet. So if we don't check ourselves now and begin to relearn how to work with nature, how to live in harmony with nature, it's a very bad future we're building. And we have genetically modified crops in Nigeria. We started having them formally approved since the creation of the signing of the National Biosafety Agency Management Law into the bill into a law in 2015 by President Jonathan's administration. Since then, there have been so many GMOs approved in Nigeria. Almost any kind of application that comes to this nation that goes to the Biosafety Agency gets approved. So sad now that we have genetically modified maize, we have genetically modified beans, we have genetically modified wheat, even recently allowed for import. So that we have genetically modified cassava. So that almost everything that is in our staple food ends up being genetically engineered. And the big problem is that according to our law, there must be labeling for genetically engineered crops so that those who want to eat it would eat it by choice. But the way our cultural system is, a socioeconomic and farming cultural system is, we can't really label our food. And until we can label our food, we ought not to allow GMOs into this country. GMOs, nobody's going to label a carrot that is made from genetically modified beans, or label the corn that's been roasted on the roadside that is genetically modified corn. It's not going to happen. And so people are being ambushed to eat things that are not natural GMOs are not natural. They can't be found in nature. They are made by introducing genetic material from across species that don't happen in nature. For example, the genetically modified beans that is in the market that's been given to farmers to grow now is genetically engineered to kill pests. It's an insecticide. But human beings are going to be eating it, and people are going to be eating insecticide instead of eating beans that they know. And they would know the difference because they look the same as other beans in the market. Some other crops are genetically engineered to withstand herbicides, so that when you grow a particular crop over the whole farm, you just go and spray a chemical that will kill everything else except that crop. Now, if it kills everything except that crop, there's also we should understand that the crop itself is absorbing some of the chemicals in that pesticide. And right now, the most popular pesticide in the market has what is known as glyphosate, and it's found in products called Roundup and other similar products. The herbicide. In the US, there are thousands of cases in the court against that chemical because it's causing cancer in both farmers and those who are paid to spray on lawns just to keep fields beautiful, and all that. So this is a challenge. Our people are being exposed to using chemicals that they are not even protected against. They're exposed to eat crops that are not being checked for safety sufficiently. All the applications that have been made and approved, we don't see the reason to justify the approval is not in the public domain. The risk assessment. If you have to check the risk of a particular crop before you give to people to consume, then it means that there's a risk in it. And the funny thing is that those who are making these crops, by law, the present law in Nigeria, are not they can avoid responsibilities if anything happens to anybody, because the law does not provide for strict liability. This is why some of us have been campaigning for that law to be reviewed, to be changed, so that those who bring these crops, if anything goes wrong, should be held accountable. So there are many reasons to worry about, and there are many imported, not just the one grown in our farm, there are many imported products. People should read the labels. If you're going to buy vegetable oil that's not made in Nigeria, read the label. What are the ingredients? You're going to buy baby food, read the ingredients. Read what is in that food you are buying. Even biscuits and cakes and things used in making ice cream. People need to know what they're eating and not eat poison. Scientists have done tests on GMOs that have shown that they have negative effect, causing cancers, causing birth defects, malformation of organs, and so many.
We are looking at agroecology as a viable solution in the sense that it is the system of agriculture that is not dependent on fossil fuels, for one, and so the fact that it does not depend on fossil fuel means it reduces the consumption of fossil fuel. We know that the exploration of fossil fuel and the burning of fossil fuel contributes significantly to the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere. So agroecology does not depend on that, and it doesn't depend on the inorganic fertilizers whose production releases a lot of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere also. And then again, agroecology is not input intensive. Agroecology is it's knowledge intensive in the sense that it works with the knowledge of the farmers, and so it enables the production, the optimum and stable production of food that is healthy, food that is safe, food that is culturally appropriate. The production of GMOs generally have been linked to several diseases, liver implications, kidney diseases, immune disorders, and we can tell from over time how these cases have increased. Cancers have increased, and these are all linked to our consumption of food, consumption of GMOs. Now, talking about herbicides, and that some of these GMOs are made to withstand, the active ingredient Roundup has actually been shown by scientists to be a carcinogen. It has been proven that it's a carcinogen, and also we have several thousands of people in the US, for example, who have won cases against the producer of these some of these chemicals, right, for failing to warn people that they are carcinogenic.
People are telling us that we don't have food to eat, so we need to introduce GMs. It's not true. We don't need GMs in the system. Farmers themselves have also proven that the harvest from GM seed that they have been introduced to does not give more yields than the indigenous seeds that we have. And the problem we are now faced with, some of these farmers have also confirmed to us at different times, different meetings, that the seeds they have planted, this GM seed they have planted, have invaded their farm, and somehow the indigenous seed don't grow anymore. Scientifically, this might not have been proven completely, but we are already seeing these guys complaining, and many of them are saying they don't want the seeds anymore. They're now to our shops because of our culture of wanting to be civilized, in quote. If you go to our shops, you find imported products of different forms, shapes, and sizes in all our supermarkets.
This is not what happens in the western part of the western world, where you have the genetically modified versions and the conventional versions, which they can have choices of using or not using. But here, these varieties are being released and nobody knows how long they've tested them or how safe they are for human consumption.
If you are just joining us, it's Etafe on AIT, and next on the program is our nutrition segment.
It's a common saying that you are what you eat. This is why we make it a point of duty to give you information about food items, fruits, and their nutritional value to help you make healthy choices on our nutrition segment every week. We welcome adverts from food and beverage manufacturing companies on this segment.
Beetroot is one of the healthiest vegetables. It is the taproot portion of the beet plant, mostly grown for its edible taproots and leaves. Beetroot, also known as blood turnips, apart from being used as food, is a medicinal plant that has been used for ages in the treatment of numerous conditions. Though beetroot comes in different colors, red is more common. They can be eaten raw, as juice, or eaten as salads. The health benefits of this wonderful plant has been widely researched. Beetroot, due to its low sodium, fat, and high folic content, supports mental and emotional well-being. Beetroot, according to experts, may delay signs of premature aging. It can promote skin, liver, and brain health. It is beneficial during pregnancy. It lowers blood pressure, reduces the risk of heart diseases, aids in cancer prevention, helps fight inflammation, reduces bad cholesterol, levels the risk of diabetes.
On our clinical segment, we'll give you tips for healthy living.
I want to appeal to everyone to take their health checkups more seriously. At least on a yearly basis, they should come to the hospital and get a kidney function test. In addition to a kidney function test, they should get a urinalysis and look out for the protein in urine to, be able to get this diagnosis done earlier.
You can be a part of our perception segment on how to improve human lives by dialing the numbers showing on your screen.
Association of beauty is derived from which means no one must start a process and end that process. From the practical point of view and from the ethical point of view, you don't need one person to start a process and complete because of what we call unethical behavior. Can aid and abet what we call fraud because you are the only one that is involved in that process.
This is how we wrap up the program today. Please join us same time next week for another interesting edition of the show. Don't forget to advertise your product and services with us on the platform. My name is Oshuomowa Daniels. Please keep staying safe.